West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and we are going to, on this episode, and I said we because it's not just me today. We've got a guest on the show today. More on that in a second. We're going to have a look at all things women's cricket. At the time of recording and as you're watching this, I assume that you have this on a split screen because you're watching the West Indies women versus Sri Lanka women in the first ODI, whilst watching this preview of the whole series and the T20 Blaze, Women's Super 50, looking ahead to the ODI series, looking ahead to the T20 series for the women as well. Lest you forget, people, I know that there's obviously a big senior men's T20 World Cup going on at the moment, but West Indies cricket is more than just the senior men's side. Funnily enough, I was at a function yesterday and we were talking about the women's senior T20 World Cup, which is going to be in England later this year, in literally pretty much 3.5 months, 4 months away when the women's T20 World Cup gets underway. So they'll be on their way over here soon enough. So it's important, people, that you remember that we shouldn't just focus all of our attention on the senior men's, and there is far more to. There is a lot of other teams that we need to focus on, and the same way how we had energy when the under-19s played their World Cup, we got the energy for the men's senior team in their World Cup, and we need to keep the energy going for the women's team and their World Cup coming up this year. So, without any further ado, let's get into the episode. Like I promised, I'm excited. We've got a new guest on the show. I'm fairly certain that when I bring this guest on, certainly some people within the cricket fraternity be like, but I know him. This is the first time he's been on Caribbean Cricket Podcast. So I'm delighted to bring on Gerard Basso, cricket commentator, cricket analyst, all things cricket within the region. You know how we do on Caribbean Cricket Podcast already. We aren't snobs in this thing. If we believe that there's somebody worth talking to who can help share some limelight and bring some analytical discussion to proceedings, we're more than happy to get people onto the platform and have detailed cricket conversations. So delighted to get Gerard on today. Without any further ado, let us bring our guest on. Gerard, how you doing?
How are you doing, Marsha? Well, it's afternoon now for you. It's bright and early in the morning for me. And I was telling you before we got started, the morning is almost like an English summer. It's so overcast down here in the Caribbean right now, at least in Trinidad, where I am. So I thank you for having me on. It's definitely a pleasure. I mean, we communicate a lot throughout the last couple of years online. And, I always compliment you and Santoki Online that, I love what you guys do. And it's definitely an honor for me to be on your podcast. And as you say, it's the first time, and some people might know the face, know the voice, especially if they follow cricket as you guys do in the regional game, having done quite a lot of the work regionally as well. So it's definitely a pleasure to be here.
Listen, the pleasure is all mine, and on behalf of Santoki, the pleasure is all his as well. I said to Santoki when he went off on his latest travels, I said, Santoki, I'm going to get a guest on. Don't worry, I'm going to get somebody to come and fill in for you whilst you're gone. So I'm glad to have you on, and like I say, chop it up. And do you know what? Without any further ado, you and I were talking backstage before I pressed record, and I said it is important, as much as this episode is about focusing on the women's team and the limited overs series versus Sri Lanka, we should, because it's present right now, we're a day out from the West Indies senior men's side finishing their group stage against Italy with another comprehensive victory, 4 from 4. The Super 8s, we now know that we will face Zimbabwe on Monday, South Africa on Thursday, and India next Sunday, with a potential chance to make it into a T20 World Cup semi-final. Who knows what else might follow? Let me get your reflections, though, because it's always good to hear from different people. What's been your reflections thus far on the senior men's T20 World Cup?
I tell you, the introduction you gave to the program, it's like, I don't know if you remember being in the Caribbean, raising ants' nests, and so many thoughts ran through the head, especially about the women's game that we're going to get to in a bit, because I'm very passionate about that side of it. I think from the men's side, though, there are bits and pieces, and I think I mentioned this to you online, there are bits on social media, that there are bits and pieces of it that does not surprise me, because there are players that are showing up in our senior men's team that for years, I personally, I don't know about anybody else, you introduced me as a commentator and analyst, but I'm a fan first. And I always held the belief in those players because you saw the talent, you saw the potential, and to see them now coming into it, and specifically Shimron Hetmyer comes to mind first of all. And I think I mentioned to you a couple of days ago, I always had in my white ball setup Shimron Hetmyer, Nicholas Puran, Rovman Powell, 4, 5, and 6. Play anybody else you want around them, rotate them at 4, 5, and 6, because that's the talent that they have. The thing about it though, we know that in the West Indies, our players mature later. So whereby, and forgive me for getting into the women, whereby we might look at a Phoebe Litchfield, who at age 19 is a superstar, or even our own captain, Hayley Matthews, at 16, she's a superstar. We can't expect that for everybody. But I'm pleasantly pleased at the guys. What's impressed me the most with the guys, it's not, you mentioned it yesterday, it's not a world beater franchise player. So it's not a Dre Ross, it's not a Karen Pollard, it's not a Nicholas Puran, it's everybody, it's a collective. And that's impressed me most about the team. If you recall, the first couple of games, Brandon King and Shea Hope didn't fire. It didn't matter because we had Hetmyer, we had Rutherford, even Matthew Ford when he did come into the team. So there have been players along the way. The bowling has been impressive for the last 2 years in all formats. And I chalk that up to Ravi Rampal. Forgive me if it sounds biased, because
I was going to say, people are going to say.
That's okay. I don't mind, because I know Ravi, and yes, he's a Trinidad boy. But when you look at Ravi's record across formats as well, when he was a player, Ravi understands the game. Ravi knows the game. And my uncle, I know you guys like to talk about the unks in the Caribbean. He loves to bring up, I think it was the 2016 World Cup. He said, listen, West Indies doesn't win, either 2012 or 2016. We don't win that game if Ravi doesn't take that wicket. Because he set the tone when he bowled the second over after Samuel, and it was the second to last ball of the over. So Ravi, and you guys saw it in the red ball format as well. We're now able to take 20 wickets. So now transition that into our white ball format, at least T20 now. They've been impressive. They've been impressive. As you guys have been saying, nobody gave us a chance. And now everybody is starting to say favorites. Is this 2016 all over again? That type of thing. For me, I'm just going to let the boys play. I'm going to let them play. Whatever happens, happens. Because I never held any belief. As a fan, yes, I want us to win. I want another World Cup. But winning a World Cup still doesn't solve some of the off-field issues. And that's where the analyst in me comes in. That's where the commentator in me comes in. Getting more than just the game. But they've been impressive. And seeing different guys put up their hand at different points, that's definitely, I expect them to get into the semifinals.
Before we move across to the women's cricket, I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that you are based in Trinidad to just discuss. This was never, and by the way, people listening to this, this was never my plan, right? When I wrote down my notes of what we were going to discuss, I have some notes in front of me. This topic here was never a plan. This is why I don't plan episodes, right? I want to talk about one player who's not at the World Cup, and I want your kind of domestic insight as to where you see this player's career potentially going. As soon as I say the bowling suit, I think you'll know where I'm going. We went to this World Cup without a leg spinner. Pretty much every T20 side has a leg spinner. We went without one because I just think they don't see anybody at that top tier level that can be a game changer yet. So I think they ultimately said, well, what's the point in taking someone if they're not at that level yet? Now I'm looking at last year, looked like it was Navin Badesi's breakout year, right? I don't, and the reason why I'm asking you is because I don't know Navin Badesi's backstory. Until I saw him break out last year, I'd seen his name here and there, but don't really know nothing about Navin Badesi. So anyways, he had his breakout year last year. Breakout league. He got the CPL franchise deal as well. I think he went to Nepal as well. I think he was in that Nepal side that went out to Nepal. So got a senior call up as well. I guess I'm asking you two questions. Do you see him going forward as the premier guy to focus our attention on and try and develop? Is he an all-rounder? Because he can bat. Is he an all-rounder? Is he someone to watch? Where do you think his game can go?
And Navin, again, you say you don't know his background, and it's ironic. I messaged, I think about 2 weeks ago, I messaged Riyad Emirates about Navin when I saw some of the domestic scores for that weekend, because our red ball season is well in full swing. Queen's Park and Machel are still the teams to beat. But I messaged Riyad about him, because he is definitely one of the players that, similar to the girls, they are the younger ones that I told you guys, I want to see their progress. Funny you mentioned his batting. Navin works hard on his batting, funny enough. I think sky's the limit for Navin. Once he continues to work on his game, continues to progress the way that we've seen him progress. The scores and his figures over the last, I think we're now into 3 or 4 weeks of club cricket down here. They have not been anything to shout about, like 6 fours and 7 fours, that type of thing. But they've been steady. I think there was one weekend where he did get some runs with the bat, I think a 40 or a 50 or 60 odd. I'm going to have to go back. As you said, we didn't plan this, so I don't have that information at hand. But I think Navin is definitely one. He's actually one of 2 guys. Well, I have to say 3 now because of what just transpired in the T20 in the under 19 World Cup.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right. I did under 19 Rising Stars last year or year before, and there's this young guy from Jamaica, Tremaine, I think is his first name.
Tremaine Redwood,
not Yearwood, Redwood. And he impressed me when I was in Jamaica last year. You mentioned a name, Yannick Carrier. Yannick, for me, was always the default leg spinner. I could not understand why Yannick was dropped from the team. He's the only leg spinner I've seen in the Caribbean since Samuel Badri that has exhibited copious amounts of control. We talk about putting down the handkerchief, putting down the shilling, and Yannick would hit the shilling 7 balls in an over. If you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Even Badri on commentary always talked about, and Ganga always talked about, Yannick is afraid to use his change-ups, his googlies, his flippers, and so on. And we all knew he had it. But towards that point when Yannick was not selected for West Indies, and I don't know why we look at age, as we just mentioned, probably looking at, Yannick is 35, 36. Why are we picking him now? Hey, Australia picked Scott Boland at age 36, took 7 for 1 in his first spell in the Ashes. Was it the Ashes or against India? I can't remember. So age is just a number. All players mature later. Yannick should have always been the default leg spinner. The unfortunate thing is that Yannick has, in essence, yes, he's playing for Queen's Park. Yes, he's playing for Trinidad and Tobago, but he's kind of transitioning into Legends League cricket.
Right.
And once you start transitioning, it's the same argument we had about Jason Mohammed. Jason Mohammed is still one of the premier red ball batters in the Caribbean, but you cannot call Jason to the test team if Jason is playing a Legends League game with Pollard and Bravo and Gale and these guys. He's already transitioned out of international cricket. But Yannick has always been, for me, the default. It's unfortunate, and again, that's why we talk about there's on the field and there's off the field. And I rather suspect there's more in the motor beside the pestle when it comes to Yannick. And then, of course, we know in the West Indies, we always have all these arguments about the selection process and so on. And I don't know what is in the motor beside the pestle when they chose not to go with Yannick. Navin was mightily impressive in CPL last year. I did a radio for CPL last year, and I'm sitting down in the booth and I'm looking at Navin almost win a game for the Patriots. And I'm like, where did this come from? We're so accustomed to seeing Navin T10 cricket, T20 cricket, club cricket for his club down here. That's bowling. That's bowling. And we know he has all the change-ups. Leg spinner, he'll give you a little flipper here and there, he'll give you the wrong one. But to see him batting, and, you know, as I said, I message from time to time. I message Riyad Emirates, who's the national coach, and I ask him about some of these guys, and you know, they're progressing well. And in Riyad's instance, as much as you're going to see some of the more seasoned names like a Joshua De Silva, a Jason Mohammed, who's now retired, Yannick Carrier, you're going to start seeing some of the younger ones coming through. I think. Sometime middle of last year, I told you about Adrian Ratcher.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Ratcher did not have that great an under-19 World Cup. Granted, he didn't play a lot, but Ratcher is definitely one of those speedsters at age 16, 17, Rising Stars tournament. I saw him set up batters, bowl it short, length, short of a length, boom, quick Yorker. And when I talk about quick, Mash, I'm talking about for that age, quick. You don't see the ball. And once Adrian continues to progress, I know we're talking about leg spinners, but he came to mind. He's definitely one to watch. Back to leg spinners, Laws has been a revelation for me. I did, prior to the Under-19 World Cup, I mean, I saw the team and I saw his name and I was like, wait, Laws, I don't remember seeing him come through Rising Stars at under 15, under 17, under 19. And to see what he did in the World Cup, and I think they have him in the team of the tournament. He's definitely one to hold on to. The challenge with West Indies cricket now, though, is our developmental pathway. And that's going to open another can of worms that we're not going to have time for this morning.
Listen, don't worry though. You've already done enough. You've already done enough in 17 minutes for you to come back on the show. So we can touch that. We can touch that one on another basis.
Yeah. But definitely those are my three names though. Navin, Tremaine from Jamaica, and now Laws are definitely the three leg spinners that. And to answer your first question, I think yes, by default we should have been going with a leg spinner. An out-and-out leg spinner, even if it meant dropping a batter, because of the mere fact that we're playing in India and Sri Lanka. A lot of the pitches in the World Cup have not spun, save and apart, I think, either Mumbai or Ahmedabad. But just by the mere fact that we're playing in India and Sri Lanka, take a leg spinner.
Well, we shall see in the Super 8s if that comes back to bite us. The fact that we haven't needed one thus far, and that the men have all put their hand up when needed to. But it'll be interesting when the crunch comes. Will we rue the fact that we didn't have that variety in our arsenal? But listen, we said at the top of the show that we wanted to talk about the women's cricket. So the women's squad, and let me just, because not everybody will be all phase. Some of you will be listening to this episode and you'll be like, who was even selected? Because I know some of you don't pay enough attention about the women's team.
Well, you see me looking down. I'm looking for the message that I got when I saw this team selection. So I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, so we got 3 ODIs and 3 T20s against Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka beat us when we went there, if I'm not mistaken. So the team selected is as follows: ODI squad, because that's what's up first. Hayley Matthews is back after a long time out for her shoulder injury last year. So Hayley Matthews is captain. Shemaine Campbell has lost the vice captaincy. Some might say Chanel Henry has gained the vice captaincy. That's a talking point in itself. Chanel Henry vice captain. Aliyah Elaine, Shemaine Campbell, Jazara Claxton, Deandra Dottin is back after missing a lot of 2025. Affy Fletcher, Janilla Glasgow, Rielana Grimmond, Shanisha Hector, who was the standout domestically recently, Kiana Joseph, Ashmini Munasar, Karishma Ramarak, Chanel Shaw, Stefani Taylor is in there. So I'm going to pick out some key talking points that because and people, if you're wondering why Gerard is on here as well, because Gerard watches the domestic cricket. This is the thing as well, and I'm going to be completely transparent, people. I think some people watch scorecards, some people watch cricket, and I think it's important to distinguish between the two. And I think sometimes with the women's cricket, people are afraid to admit that they're not actually following the cricket properly. And I don't think with women's cricket, because you can look at the scorecards and go, boy, another score under 100, what's really going on? But it is a bit deeper than just looking at the scorecards. So I'm going to pick out some key talking points that I want us to address. A lot of these names are familiar to us. Even if you're a casual observer of the West Indies women's team, the majority of that squad should be familiar to a West Indies fan. But do you know where I'm going to start? I'm actually going to start with Chanel Shaw. Because
I'm going to correct you. It's Chanel Sao. It's always
thank you for correcting me there.
And I'm glad you started Chanel, because I have questions about Chanel, and after you do your preamble, I'll get into it.
Brilliant. So first things first, people. Chanel Sao. That's the correct pronunciation, and it always is important to get the pronunciations correct, people. Now, the reason I want to start there is because I remember hearing about her at age group level, right? Mm-hmm. So I think she must only, I need to check, she could only be 20 now, maybe 19.
Shani is about 21, give or take.
21 now, right? Yeah. So I remember hearing about her at age group level when she was maybe 18, 17, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually thought then, so we're talking 3 years ago, maybe, I thought she'd break through a lot sooner than she actually has, right? So that's why I want to start there, because when we talk about youngsters coming up through the ranks into the women's senior team, Glasgow, Claxton, they all made it before Chanel, and I had her down on my list of, she's going to play for the senior team very, very soon. Let's start there. What do you want to say about her?
Like yourself, I've known Chanel quite a few years, and yes, she's from Trinidad and Tobago. She would have come up through that age group rankings under the guise and the mentorship of women's greats in the game like Anisa Mohammed and Marissa Aguilera, who are now the coaches and senior faces, if you will, of women's cricket here in Trinidad and Tobago, and the whole setup of women's cricket. Chanel, by trade, so to speak, is a wicketkeeper. She's an out-and-out wicketkeeper. Chanel's batting through age group cricket has always been impressive. She's an out-and-out opener as well, primarily, right? Which is not to say that she can't bat other places, but think of an Adam Gilchrist. Probably not that type of power or that type of aggression and that type of strike rate, but you think about wicket keepers who open the batting. Quinton de Kock, forgive me for using the men's examples, because there are very few in the women's game. Beth Mooney in the women's game as an out-and-out wicket keeper can open the batting. 2 years ago, I think it was 2024, 2023, one out of 2023 or 2024 under 19 Rising Stars Championships, Women's Rising Stars, Chanel got injured during the tournament. And that's one of the aspects about Chanel, that she's had to deal with injury even at that young age. That's kind of curtailed some of her development. Looking at her this year and even last year through senior team play, I am not seeing the type of progression I personally wanted to see from Chanel. I think I mentioned this to you guys before. In any team that I'm selecting, my wicketkeeper is my first pick. Give me an out-and-out wicketkeeper. I don't care if my wicketkeeper makes runs. I can put my wicketkeeper to bat number 11. It may be unconventional, but give me a wicketkeeper. And here's my rationale for that. When you look at some of the great wicket keepers through West Indies cricket in particular, first thing, they need to understand the game. Because that's your lieutenant on the field. In our present instance, Shea is the captain, right?
Yes.
But if Shea is in the outfield, by default, it was going to be Nicholas Pooran. And we all know Nick knows the game. How many times have we seen Nicholas stop the game, walk down to Akil, talk to him, and the very next ball is a wicket? Because Nick sees the game differently. Give me a wicket keeper. Our men's team. That's why I say Tev. I love Joshua. Joshua's a friend. But Tevin is the best glove man in the Caribbean. I don't care if Tevin is not making runs at international level yet. He'll get there. Glove man, give me Tev. Right? I'm talking about Tevin Imlak from Guyana. For the listeners who don't know when I say Tev.
Yeah, good point, actually, because I'm looking.
I forget we have international listeners who are not familiar with some of our players and know them personally, right? And you mentioned Charmaine Campbell losing the vice captaincy. And I'll tell you something. As a glove woman, yes, Charmaine is steady, but Charmaine's understanding of the game is not there. Charmaine can't stand up behind the stumps and tell Haley, hey, you're missing this, you're missing that. She can't tell a young bowler, like let's say Samara Ramnath, listen, you're not pitching it right. She doesn't understand the game. And I know I'm kind of getting into a little bit of back end story because you wouldn't know that looking at the game. But even looking at the game, if you can analyze the game, you realize a lot of wicket keepers, take for example, Dinesh Ramdin, who I have at the top all time wicket keepers, even above Dujon and Murray and these guys who I love and respect.
Listen, you're trying to get this podcast shut down, you know. It's the first appearance and you're trying to mash up my team.
My apologies. But I use Shota, I use Dinesh as an example. You look at Dinesh's career from age group all the way up, he understands the game. So that's the first thing about Shonell. And I was told actually last week, and I think having her on the senior team now, because I understand Shane Dorridge, who actually took over from Ramdin at Red Ball Cricket, right? Who I have probably second or third on my list of wicket keepers in the Caribbean. Of course, that's just me personally, right? No bias or anything. But I understand that Shane is actually around the team. And I'm hoping that having Dorridge around her is going to help not fast track, but put back on track Shonell's progression. She was not as impressive with the bat through Super 50 and T20 Blaze this year again. Shane Dorridge, we know, even as a glove man being steady, Shane Dorridge's batting was quite underrated actually, when we think back. So I think all round understand, and then of course he captained CCC and captained the Barbados different times and so on. So that all round nature of what a wicket keeper should be, I think Shonell is going to get back on track. I think Shonell is definitely going to progress now. Again, we have to extend a bit of grace to some of these players, men and women. We mature later than everybody else. We do. It's a reality. It's a fact. And we have to take that into context. So I rather suspect probably by the time she's 25 to 30 in that age bracket, she should be back on track and should be the one to take over the glove work. Notwithstanding that they've pushed Mandy Mongrou.
So that's what I was going to ask you then. Yeah, because up till now it's been Mandy who's been the backup. Now I see all of this as, and maybe we're getting too much into the talk here, but I see this. I see this as twofold. They're trying to succession plan. They're trying to identify who they should succession plan around. And potentially, if we look at the changing leadership model, the leadership position as well, maybe they're kind of saying to Charmaine, you need to up your game, because, and I'm going to pick my words carefully here, it's too comfortable for Charmaine. And she's been on the scene for a long time, as long as the Haleys, the Stefanis, the Deandras, etc. And she
was around during the World Cup in 2016.
So at this stage, she's supposed to have been a more regular contributor Do you follow where I'm going with this?
Yeah. And I fully agree. And that's why I hinted at that understanding of the game. Give me a wicketkeeper. And my rationale for giving me my wicketkeeper first is give me the understanding of the game. You are my captain's lieutenant if you're not the captain like she, right? You're my captain's lieutenant on the field. You are the energy, the lifeblood. You think I was mentioning Dennis Ramlin. Think about how talkative Dennis Ramlin was. Think about well, she's now going to retire, Elisa Healy, who I'm so sad that she's retiring. I was looking forward to having her in the Caribbean here next month or month after when Australia come here. And I know we have to talk about that Australia series probably on a subsequent podcast because we're going to get routed. We're going to get routed, even though Australia are going to come with some of their younger players, right? Because they are also succession planning for the post Elisa Healy. But think about wicketkeepers like that. Think about Arisha Ghosh from India. They're talkative, and they're not talkative because they have a mouth and they have a voice. They're talkative because they see the game. They understand the game. They know the game. They understand their role. And you're absolutely right. Charmaine Campbell has been. She's been. I'm gonna say it plainly, and I hold no qualms about it if it gets me in trouble. She's been a failure for a very long time. And we should have made this decision a long time ago to succession plan Charmaine more than even Stephanie. All right. Now, Stephanie's problem, obviously, we know is like I always say, there are two players. I call them the walking hospital, herself and Evan Lewis. And I always joke about that with Evan. But I don't mind in succession planning having Stephanie around still to a certain extent. But definitely it is something that we should have done a long time ago. Because she needs to contribute. And I'm not even talking about with the bat. You need to contribute on the field. You need to contribute in terms of information. When you have a Liliana Grimond coming into the team, a Mandy Mongrou, a Chanel Sau, right? These girls are in the average between ages 18 to 23. If you cannot impart knowledge, which I know for a fact that Stephanie Taylor can do, Stephanie is not the biggest talker. I've interviewed Stephanie and I literally had talk a little harder.
Yes, yeah.
Because Stephanie is well spoken and very soft spoken. But knowledge wise, come on, Stephanie Taylor as a captain, you could have seen it. So Charmaine Campbell, we should have moved on from her a long time ago. But I guess, as we say in the Caribbean, better late than never. And better late than never, and not sorry. So, but Mandy, I just want to touch back on Mandy. Mandy is not a wicketkeeper. What ended up happening, and again, this is getting into some of the back end stories that I get. Like you guys, we have our contacts in and around different circles. Mandy was actually pushed into being a wicketkeeper, and notwithstanding all that I mentioned about Chanel dealing with injuries, and for me, she regressed a bit. I had this conversation, ironically, with Shakira Selman about a week ago, that in my book, Mandy is actually a better wicketkeeper, a better glove woman than Chanel presently. And Shakira knows that I've been raving about Chanel for years. She's the one to take over from Charmaine Campbell. She's the one. Right? But Chanel in my book has regressed a little bit. And that's why I said I'm glad that she's in and around the senior team and that Shane Dorich is in and around the senior team. Although Shane may not have been my number one keeper, I respect Shane and what Shane brought to our game, not just the senior team, So I'm a little bit surprised that Mandy is not around the team as well. But Mandy was always a questionable pick as well. One thing I like about Mandy works hard.
Yes.
She's not a world beater. She's not a superstar like a Hayley Matthews or DeAndre Dutton. But she works hard at her game, and I can respect it. And she's just like I say a little bundle of energy because she is quite small, and all these girls are the same age as my daughter. So, I see them as daughters, but it is quite, for me, we are going to have to move on from her. And I think now is the time Now is the time we need to move on from some of the senior players like Shamin Campbell, because they're just taking up space. They're just taking up space. And we need to allow some of these younger ones. And as we're talking about wicketkeepers, I'm tracking in my mind. I don't have my book here. I have to look for it. On the 19 Rising Stars, Guyana had a wicketkeeper. I think Lindy was her name. I'm definitely going to go back into my notes and look for it. 2023 Rising Stars Women's under 19. I saw Guyana playing here at WIvSL. And this young lady had remarkable hands. Forget feet position and all the other technical side of wicketkeeping. She had remarkable hands. I saw her take some ball, and just the nature of you take balls and bring it back to the wicket. Taking balls when the throw comes in and bringing it back, she had remarkable hands. And I'm going to get the name for you. And again, it's touching on the off-the-field issues. What's the developmental pathway? Where do these girls go? Where do they go? Because
it's interesting you say that. So recently we had the Leeward Islands team. We had the manager Amanda Edwards, Jazara Claxton on the show. And Amanda, who obviously is a senior cricketer now, I think she's like 37, and she made the point, and I guess she can make the point because she's quote unquote at the end of her career rather than the beginning of her career. And she made the point, well, the season's done now, T20's done, Super 50's done. Unless you get a WCPL deal, your cricket's done for the year. Unless you're a contracted senior cricketer or in the academy as one of the young ladies. And how can you develop if your season is basically a week and a half?
and again, I told you your intro raised a can of worms, and it's almost like I'm going in the backyard and poking at the ants' nest and the batchat nest. But again, this is a conversation I had with Shakira Selman at the beginning of the year. Think about this. What have our girls done? Bar Hayley Matthews, who we know had her surgery. I'm talking about everybody else, including Chanel, Deandra, Stefania, and all the younger ones. What has any of them done since August when CPL finished? You've had them in a 2-week camp or 2-month camp, whatever it was, in Antigua. You then decide as Cricket West Indies to play the domestic tournament in January when your 3 premier players are unavailable.
Yeah.
Why? Hayley Matthews, Deandra Dutton, and Chanel Henry are in India. You play the domestic tournament. You have now about 3 weeks in between the end of WPL and the Sri Lanka series, and also knowing that Australia are coming here. And Australia are not coming here to play ODIs and T20s. They're coming here to play a full format series that is part and parcel of the ICC Women's Developmental, almost like how we have to qualify for ODIs on the men's side. It's an entire 2-year cycle with women's cricket that the ICC put out 2 years ago. When last did any of our girls play red ball cricket, save and apart Hayley Matthews, who came home from senior team and went and played under 19 red ball, and not red ball. She played red ball with the boys.
Yep.
So you look at the WPL, Hayley is now coming back off injury. Your skipper is now coming back off of injury. She does not play every game for Mumbai. Deandra is also coming off of injury and now getting back into the flow. She does not play every game for her franchise. Loses her spot to Chloe Tryon. Can't gain it back until the last 2 games of the season, right? The only person with any significant game time, Chanel Henry. You expect them now to come back into the Caribbean and go and compete against Shamari Atapatu. And all the young ones that Shamari is bringing up, who idolize her and will take a bullet for her. You understand the mentality.
Yeah,
And these girls, Sri Lanka wise, if I'm not mistaken, they've been doing work as well. They've been playing some domestic cricket. They're developing their domestic structure. For example, it's no shock that Sadia Iqbal is the number 1 bowler in the world in the women's game. Pakistan, of all places, has a proper domestic structure now. Pakistan, think about it. A culture where women are not allowed to do certain things. And that's just the reality of it. It's not a knock on their culture. It's just that's the reality of the culture. They're going to take a while to allow women to do things because of their religious beliefs and the cultural upbringing and the habit. Why not play our domestic cricket? Because it's just a week, 2 weeks at most. Play it here now, the first 2 weeks of February. You get Deandra playing, you get Chanel playing, you get Haley playing, they get match fitness. And what do? You also have the leverage from a marketing perspective of your superstar players that you can now tell the Caribbean, come out and see your superstar player. And you have a starting point to ignite the interest in it, because we don't care about women's cricket in the Caribbean.
Do you know what? You know what, Gerard? I'm glad you've just said it, because the reality is, and that's why at the start of the show, what I said, it's important that we study it more than just scorecards, because I actually don't think many. Put it this way: if we cared about women's cricket, we wouldn't be having this discussion about what cricket are they playing. That's the simple reality of the situation.
Mash, I always say, and I learned this even from my years playing cricket in the era in secondary school against the likes of Dwayne Bravo, Ravi Rampal, Richard Kelly. These guys were my age group, my age bracket, Dinesh Ramlin, these guys. And I learned it then, coming up under the tutelage of Joey Caru's son, Michael Carew. There's only so much you can learn in the nets.
Yeah.
There's only so much we can learn here when you get out onto the field. So that's my question. And you mentioned the Women's Academy. The Women's Academy is non-existent. It's non-existent. And we've seen now with the off-field issues and the financial issues that Cricket West Indies, and that's another kind of rooms, they have now downsized the academy. Look at what the academy, for the men, so far less for the women. Look at what the academy gave us. Akim Ogist, Teddy Bishop, Joshua Bishop. And I'm just calling 3 names that came to mind. That at our 4-day level, these guys are always there. We saw what Akim Ogist, Akim was a captain of the West Indies Academy.
Yeah.
We saw what he did at CPL. We saw what he's been doing at 4-day championship level.
You can throw Johan Lane in there as well.
Johan as well. Jedia as well. Jedia passed through the academy.
Yes, yeah.
Right? There are a lot of these guys, again, through the academy. A lot of them knew me from being in and around the setup and doing all the broadcasts and so on. And again, the girls, what are they learning? Are you actually, what is the structure of the academy? Are you sitting them down in a classroom? I mentioned the knowledge of the game. Are you teaching them the game? Who are the people involved in the academy? Is it somebody like a Shakira Selman who can take our young bowlers and show them, okay, this is what you do. This is how you read the game. This is how you set your field. And then take them out onto the field and show them it in reality. What's the structure of it? You put out a press release. There's an academy. And I gave Cricket West Indies a lot of kudos for it because it was needed. We needed something. We needed a starting point. But for me, it has to go beyond just that starting point, though. You started the Women's Academy. It needs to go further. We have the Rising Stars Under-19 girls. That happens every year in the summer, generally in Trinidad and Tobago, because of the fact that we have 3 facilities that we can use, 3 or 4, right? And then right after that, you select a women's Under-19 West Indies women's team that usually plays a bilateral series against the United States Under-19 girls. And you mentioned our Women's World Cup coming up in July. We have a Women's Under-19 World Cup coming up in a year. And if I'm not mistaken, I stand to be corrected, it's actually on the subcontinent.
Yeah.
So my expectation, people like Samara Ramnath are going to do well because it's on the subcontinent. But who are the others at that under 19 level that are going, that Marissa Aguilera and these ladies who are in charge of the under 19 structure? Who are they going to have to pick from? So it's a lot, and I think there are a lot of off the field things, administrative things. I know when you guys did your year in review and year forward, one of the things you all mentioned looking for from cricket SMEs was that governance restructuring, and I think that's definitely one part of the puzzle, because it's an entire big puzzle and there are a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts. There needs to be, I don't want to go as far as to say an overhaul, but maybe an overhaul in the way that we think about it, the way that we approach it, because my belief is we don't lack for talent in this region. We don't. Men or women. Think about each of the territories, 6 territories: Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Guyana, Leewards and Windwards split into about 6 islands each. And you think about the population sizes of these countries. And then you think about the youth population size of those countries. In Trinidad and Tobago here, our youth population is somewhere between 700,000 to 1 million, actually, if my numbers are correct. We have the talent. We need to start having structures in place to develop that talent. And I know I sound like a broken record because you're hearing a lot of analysts, commentators, fans, they're all saying it. They're all saying it. There needs to be some structure. These girls, I mean, look at Shanisha Hector, for example, and I know I'm jumping back, probably jumping you forward in terms of what we're expecting today. I firmly believe she's going to get her debut today.
I'm assuming she's going to. So actually, let me run to the question I was going to ask you. Actually, so because rather than just speak about Hector, let me throw in, because there was a question I wanted to ask you about Hector, but it can address several players. Jazara Claxton, obviously, so Jazara and Glasgow and Grimond effectively made their debut last year, in essence, right? This year, it seems that Hector's now fully immersed into the scene. And like I said at the top of the show, she was the dominant player domestically this season. She was one of the ones who, if I'm not mistaken, went out to Australia 2 years ago. Was she on that list? I want to say she was on that list. I could be wrong. Maybe
she was. I'm not sure.
I'll double check in a second. Yeah. But anyways, Hector was the standout player in terms of what I would say all-round consistency, because consistency was hard to find in this domestic tournament. But the one player who did show some modicum of consistency, and more specifically, when I say consistency, I don't just mean in performance, I mean in terms of executing a role, more than just performance, right? Yeah. Top order bat, Campbell pace, which we sorely lack, I hasten to add. So this to me links in with your previous statements about succession planning and starting to phase out in the right way, but starting to phase out some of the.
Let me then ask you a question. Let me jog you. Yeah. Let me jog your mind and see if you can pick it out. And if you can't pick it out, I'm going to tell you. Who is Shanisha Hector replacing in our women's team?
Well, so for me, what in terms of the chosen 15 or from
think about role. You just mentioned it. Pace bowling.
Well, to me, she's replacing Alira Lane for me.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Or what? Not Deandra?
No. You got to go a little further back.
Oh, no. So, right. So, when I saw her pick, so this depends, because you and I might be seeing this differently. I see Hector's role in this team as her and Jazara Claxton are going to be our pace attack going forwards. So for me, the person she's naturally replacing, I actually think that's the end of Connell and I think Canel's gone.
There you
So
go.
sorry, because that's why I asked you. Do you mean the current 15?
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Sorry, so now I know we're talking about past players.
Yeah.
It's the end of Canel for me, and that Shanisa Hector is now taking the pace role. Unless, do you agree?
And we fully agree.
Right.
And that's the player that I'm telling you that she is replacing Shamila once of course Hector continues to progress, because again, Hector, when I saw Hector over the last few years, she wasn't anything to shout about. You saw the little bit of talent. This year she's grown into herself at domestic level, which, I mean, we could argue is not hard to do, of course, because of the level, but you can only play what's in front of you. Fair enough. You can only play what's in front of you. And Shonisha played what's in front of her. She showed her hand, and she's saying, listen, I'm here. Yeah. You mentioned two other names, Jazara, right? And Janila, right? Are the pace bowlers. I saw Janila at under 19 level as well. And I kind of feel like Janila's bowling is taking a little while to show me what I know I saw at under 19 level. But again, I will express grace, because I know we develop slower in the Caribbean for lack of those structures.
Do you not think that's also because Janila's focusing on her batting as well?
Quite possibly, because I was pleasantly surprised to see the batting come. Because in 2023, Rising Stars under 19s, Windwards went unbeaten up until the last game, when Shalini Samaru and Trinidad and Tobago, under the mentorship of Anisa Mohammed, the legend, beat them in the finals. Samara Ramnath was on that team, Brianna Harricharan, and I could call all the girls on the Trinidad team. But that tournament, Janila was actually top all-rounder. She won the award for top all-rounder. And she captained the Windwards team, a team that played without Zeta, because Zeta was at senior team level. Zeta came back in halfway through the tournament, and Zeta didn't do anything to shout about, probably about 2 or 3 innings, given she only played about 2 or 3 games. But Janila was the player of the tournament, and she batted and bowled and fielded. So that's why I say I find it's just taking a little while. I'm not going to get frustrated over it, because I know what I saw at under 19 level. And I want to throw a name in the mix. I can't remember if I told you guys this on social media. There is a young lady. Oh, yes, we did talk about it on social media. She bowled a 26-run over. Bunch of wides and no balls. Selena Ross. I have seen Selena, and I spoke to Selena when she was here in Trinidad last year, August, for Rising Stars on the 19th. Selena Ross is special. She is absolutely special. And what she has, nobody else has. She's a left arm swing bowler. There is no other swing bowler. You put Selena to bowl down here in Diego Martin in these conditions this morning that we had, I guarantee you would be asking Jimmy Anderson who? She is that talented. Selena needs to be protected and guided the right way. That's why I didn't get upset about the 20-something run over and the 10-15 ball over that she bowled in the tournament. I think I told you guys that online. You know,
you 100% you did. Can I ask you about that though? Because some people might be watching this, and because again, we don't know who's watching this around the world. So obviously the kind of clip around it got worldwide attention for the wrong reason. And
Cricket West Indies had to put out
because of the abuse, right? But we were having a discussion about it in the Caribbean Cricket Podcast Discord around, I just want to see where you stand on it. And what we couldn't understand about the over is someone let her down. And I'm not asking you to call names. That's not the point of my question. Someone let her down in that, because when you watch it back, umpires could have called it for 2 illegal deliveries and just taken her out of the attack, right? Captain or someone senior could and should have said, you know what, someone else bowl out this, not because they don't trust her, but just someone else bowl out this over, say she's injured or whatever it might be, X, Y, Z.
I remember when you guys posted about it on your social media platforms, and I fully agree. And I go back to a point I just made that there are a number of pieces of the puzzle. It's a whole ecosystem of things that make not just cricket, but any sport work. The role of the umpires, the role of the captain, the role of the support staff, the role of the administration. You know, it's a lot of moving parts. And I fully agree with you guys that somebody, and I'm going to marry that point with something I mentioned about wicket keepers and Shimeen Campbell and so on, the understanding of the game. And the extension of that understanding of the game, this is one of the major voids we have in the Caribbean. And allow me to connect all the dots, the wicket keeper, the understanding of the game, the moving ecosystem, the fact that succession planning, right? We know we should have had Janila and these girls taking over from Shamila, with Shamila on the team, right? The whole gap, there is a gap from a leadership perspective. Haley does not play. Who's your next captain? With the understanding of the game that Haley has. Who's your next captain? And the very first person that should be in Selena's air, the minute she bowls the first beamer, so to speak, should be her captain. Because you are the one on the field. Or, barring a captain, who might be a young one, like Janila or Zeda, who may not have that experience, who's your most senior player? How many times have we seen in the men's game where something is happening with a young one? I saw it in the World Cup just the other day. For England, the captain is Harry Brook. But you know who was in the bowler's air? I think it was Sam Curran was the bowler at the point in time. Joss Butler ran 30 yards, 30 meters, whatever it was, from behind the stumps to stand up with Sam Curran. Joss.
Do you know what? I noticed that in CPL last year when TKR won. As much as Buran's captain, Pollard was there when it mattered.
And this is the leadership void I'm talking about. So far as you want to sideline certain players and say, right, we're succession planning. That's why I don't have a problem. Trinidad and Tobago's structure. And Nisa Mohammed played, Brittany Cooper played, my girl, Leanne Kirby played, right? These are all senior players who have made their mark on the international stage. I am glad that they're in the setup. Now, Anissa, in my book, Anissa didn't need to play because of the fact you have Karishma, you have a plethora of off spinners. Come on, Anissa, you can guide them from off the field. But I love it, right? Because my legend, Anissa Mohammed, is there to be able, if something goes wrong with Samara, or forget Samara, if something goes wrong with Brianna, Brianna is only 16. This girl who made her debut, who's still 15 years old, Jairam, if something goes wrong with Shreya, you have somebody on the field can put the arm around her and talk her through it. That's the first thing in that Selena Ross incident. And then now you go on to all the different things that you guys mentioned, the role of the umpires, because the umpires do have that role. When you talk to some of them, I interact with Peter Nero and a lot of the umpires through time of doing the game, and they tell you that the primary goal of the umpires is to see the progression of the game. And in the back of their mind as umpires, they always have safety of players in mind as well. So the minute you see 2 full tosses as an umpire, you start to kind of, all right, am I supposed to be telling this player? Because you're thinking, okay, is this a danger to the batter? That type of, so that's the kind of mindset. So yes, I agree totally with what you guys said. But it showed up a lot of things, that whole Selena Ross incident. And again, I like Adian Ratcha, like Brianna Haricharan, like Nijani Komabach, by the way, who I found, and I asked this question. We have 2 home series. Are players like Nijani and they're going to be invited to be around the senior team?
Right.
Because the progression of Nijani Komabach I told Shakira Selman, because that's one of Shakira Selman's children. We always joke about it. Anything with the women's game in Barbados, bet your bottom dollar. Believe you me, Shakira Selman has her fingerprint on it. And Shakira Selman is one of the few women's players who understand the game, who know the game, and who has a skill set that is almost unmatched. Najani Comerbatch, Ebony Brathwaite.
Yeah, I was about to say you should throw Brathwaite in there, because if they don't have a plan for Brathwaite, because remember Brathwaite has medalled at the Carifta Games. She might all just move away from cricket, because she don't have to take cricket serious if she don't want to. And if they don't have a path for her, don't be surprised if 2 years from now she ain't even playing cricket.
The same thing I told one of my uncles, this young boy who opens for on the 19 team, I've forgotten his name, and he patterns his game after Gail. Carter, Zach. And sorry, not Gail. He patterns his game after Dapper.
Yes.
He idolizes Dapper. Because I messaged Selman, I say, why am I looking at Dapper playing on the 19 cricket? She says Zach idolizes Dapper. Everything about Dapper, he wants to emulate Dapper. You know, for international listeners, that's Kyle Myers we're talking about. And the same thing with Ebony. And I can go down the list, Machel, and I can identify for you all the under-19s that for me, we are having a home series. You don't need to put them on the squad. But let me know. The same way when we pick teams for World Cups, we pick 14 or 15, and then you have 3 to 4 traveling reserves.
Yes.
Tell me that going to Grenada, this 15 that you just called out, and 5 or 6 quote-unquote traveling reserves, it's a home series. You have a lot more leeway with your squad in a home series than you do for like Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka can only bring 15 or 16. They can't say that they're going to bring 22, for example. Right? We have a lot more play. And even if, don't tell me that we don't have the money as a board to pay for a plane ticket for these girls. What's the price of a plane ticket from Barbados to Grenada in the situation where you have Ebony Brathwaite and Najani Comerbatch from Barbados, or Samara Ramnath from Trinidad to Grenada? Heck, put Samara on a boat. You have a boat that goes from Trinidad to Grenada.
I was going to say a boat if you have to, you know.
No, exactly. And that's my point. Why are these girls not being... Brianna Haricharan has been my earmark. And I told Brianna this, not to put pressure on her, but I told Brianna this. I said, you are the heir apparent to Afi Fletcher's throne. I always forget that Afi Fletcher is almost 40 years old.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love mamas. We call her mamas in the Caribbean. I love Afi Fletcher. Afi Fletcher. Now, my favorite women's player is Alana King, and that should tell you. We started this podcast talking about leg spinners. From day one, when Alana King made her debut at domestic level in Australia, I said, oh my gosh, I am looking at the female embodiment of Shane Warne. Oh my gosh. Shane Warne bowled the ball of the tournament to that English guy. I forget his name now. Alana King has done it time and time again. Pitch a ball way outside leg, someone take away the off stump. Alana King is the female. So that should tell you. Afi Fletcher, for me, I think we had this conversation about Shade Hope some time back. Because she's from the West Indies, Afi will never get called in the same breath as Alana. But I can call Afi because Afi is world class as a leg spinner, world class. And then now, latter part of her career, Afi's coming in and doing like Dre Ross and Karen Pollard. like where did this come from, mamas? Mamas, you could have bat. We don't know you could bat. You know, that type of thing. And I mean, Father Time is undefeated, unfortunately. There are players that I wish could play till they're 100 years old. You know, but the reality is, in about 2 to 3 years' time, Afi Fletcher is going to hang up her boots. The reality is that in about 2 to 3 years' time, it's going to sink in. Wait a minute. Audie is getting older. I need to be there for him. I can't have him traveling around with me. I can't be missing the time seeing Audie grow up. Believe you me, as a father, I know it. As a mother, it's even deeper. So who are we earmarking to take over from Afi now and put them around Afi?
Yeah.
Put them in the squad. You know what it would be like for these girls to be in the same hotel as an Alana King if Alana is coming with Australia next month? You know what it's going to be like for them to be around Georgia Wareham if Georgia is being selected for that Australia team next month? You know what it's going to be like for them to be around a Beth Mooney who understands the game, a Ash Gardner, just by mere fact that, hey, you go downstairs in the hotel and you're going for your breakfast and you taking out a piece of bread, and right next to you taking out a piece of bread is an Australian great in Beth Mooney.
Listen, you're better than me because I hope some of those players don't come because if they come,
I want them to come.
But if they come, you see that test match. That test match could be that test match could be horrific, you know.
No, and you see, I look at it from the flip side, Mash. I think sometimes we need wake-up calls. We need a slap in the face. Chances are with West Indies cricket, it's not going to be a slap in the face. We're just going to quarrel with it. As we say in Trinidad and Tobago, 10 days mentality. We're going to quarrel about it for 10 days. We're going to have an emergency meeting like they did after the 27 last year where Machel Stark routed us, right? And we're going to sit down and talk in a room. We're going to have greats of the game like a Brian Lara tell you what the solution is. And 6 months later, what has happened? So I want us to be routed by Australia. I actually want all the big name players to come because I am hoping, I don't know if Cricket West Indies are going to call me to actually be a part of the commentary or the production team because I'm thoroughly looking forward to I understand it may be in Barbados. They haven't said anything yet, but Barbados was initially thought of for the Australia series. If I'm not part of the broadcast team, if I don't have a plane ticket, I'm going to swim to Barbados just to be in the ground with Alana King.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, and again, I look at it as the flip side. Don't be afraid to get routed. It's going to tell you what you need to know about your game.
Yes.
We should have had, for the girls, we should have had what the boys have for the girls, first of all. Rising Stars under 17, Rising Stars under 19, under 17, under 15, and then stretch it to under 13 at some point. That should always be the goal. So you now have a developmental pathway. At under 17 and under 19, they don't just play white ball. They play 2-day games as well in the mix. That's what should have been happening 2 years ago when we knew that West Indies women were finally going to play a test match after how many decades? And then now you should be looking at the same way we have a breakout tournament for the boys. Can we have an under 23 breakout tournament as well for the girls? What are the conversations happening with Pete Russell and these guys in the CPL about expanding? After 4 years, you're telling me we're getting Jamaica back in the men, but you're not adding at least 1 or 2 teams?
Has to be one more. At the very minimum, there has to be
Come
one more.
on.
Has to be.
Because
I've been told this year that there's going to be more games for the women's CPL. I was told that.
But let me ask you
this week. But
more
to me, if it's more games with only 3 teams, that's not more opportunities.
Correct. And you're taking the question out of my mouth. That's part one of the question. Where are the opportunities for more girls in the Caribbean in those same 3 teams? Are you now telling me a team is going to be 22? And then the extension of that. How much better can you get? If I'm playing against Haley all the time, for example, am I not going to figure out how to get Haley out? Because I'm only playing against Haley. It's the same thing when we were in school. My captain, when we were in school, he had Dwayne Bravo figured out. Every time we played Tranquil, my captain, ironically, his name is Dwayne too, knew how to get Dwayne Bravo out. And at the time, Dwayne Bravo was already earmarked for senior team in Trinidad He was going through the youth level, North Zone under 19, National under 19, all that. And we all already knew that Dwayne was good. So that's the other side of it. You're going to be playing the same opposition. It needs to be a situation whereby you have 6 teams, more opportunity for all local girls, but you also have more internationals. Annalise Perry, an Alana King, a Amy Jones, a Nat Siva Brunt, a Laura Wolvart. You could imagine sitting down or being in a dressing room with Laura Wolvart, a Marizanne Kapp, who is the all-rounder of this era in the women's game. Sadly, she's going to miss some of South Africa's game. She's injured. But if you get where I'm coming from,
yeah.
I fully agree with what you're saying. We need to. So it's not just CPL and WCPL. That's franchise. That's just for a month. I'm talking about under 13, under 15, under 17, under 19, under 23, and both formats. And don't tell me that these children are in school. You have the Christmas vacation, that is 3 weeks in the Caribbean. You have the Easter vacation, that is 2 weeks in the Caribbean. You have the August summer vacation, that is 8 weeks. That's 13 weeks. That's 3 months of potential cricket at age group level, at the highest level regionally that we can do. Who are the ones in Cricket West Indies thinking about these things and then implementing it?
Well, you're asking too many difficult questions there. Listen,
I'm sorry for taking the podcast in that direction, but I told you open a can of worms, and again, it's because I know a lot of these, and I have a daughter. My daughter is around the age of, and I have only nieces, ironically, and they are around the ages of Samara and these girls, and I always get passionate when I see things happening with young women because of that fatherly instinct. You know, I consider Zeda my daughter. I consider Samara, all these girls, you know, those are my daughters because I've interacted with them at the 19 level and so on. And there are things that I know that we're going to have another, because we're going to discuss in more detail as the series go along, the women's game and so on. So I know that there'll be other podcasts, but it's just, sometimes it's heartbreaking, but I always say that I cannot be the only person in the Caribbean who's seeing it this way. I'm nobody special. I'm just a fan of the game who has followed the game from that era when Malcolm Machel was just about retiring. I'm giving away my age. Was there in the Oval when Curtly Ambrose, who's my number 1 bowler of all time, bowled out England for 46. I was able to see Joel Garner, the great, in a charity game. So my foundation as a fan in the game, first of all, is there. And then later coming through, being involved in it through whether administration, playing against people, interacting with people like Riyad Emret, Marissa Aguilera, Shakira Selman. That passion, Mash, I tell you, it hurts. It really hurts sometimes. But I want to give, for at least one period in time, give Cricket West Indies a little bit of credit that they did, you know, they did make an effort. I don't know what happened after that when they announced, hey, we're going to have a girls' academy as well. I don't know what happened after that it's fallen to where it is. But again, we have the resources here in the Caribbean to do it. We just need the people with the gumption and, as one of my friends used to say, the testicular fortitude to actually do things. Do things. Like not just talk about it, but do it. And that's why I give credit to Marissa and Shakira. They're doing it in Trinidad and Barbados. They're doing it. They're putting the structures in place.
The last thing I'm going to ask you, and then we'll wrap it, is because you're going to come back on. I'm going to not focus on the T20s. And to be fair, with the T20s, when we reconvene, read the T20s, that has a deeper focus because of the World Cup later in the year. So I think there's a different kind of conversation around that in terms of forward planning for 4 months down the line. So just in terms of this ODI series, I'll give you a simple question. I say simple. What is success for the women's team in this just ODI series versus Sri Lanka? Obviously, we didn't qualify for the ODI World Cup, although we then beat South Africa after the fact we didn't qualify, which was good, by the way.
Yeah.
We should praise the women for that.
Yeah.
After the ODI World Cup, would you? And I guess let me caveat it. So actually, I'll give you some answers. You tell me which one suits you. Is success, let's win the series versus Sri Lanka, or is success, and I guess you could say both, or is success blooding the youngsters and seeing that we're starting to, because really and truly, we should be starting to look at these ODI series as the next World Cup is X date in the future. Some of these people surely aren't going to be there at the next World Cup. So if we're planning with sense, we should really be thinking along those kind of lines. So what do you want to see in this ODI series? Win it, and that's all that matters? Or a view of, let's see what we're doing with all these youngsters, like a Claxton, like a Hector, like a Glasgow, like a Munasar, etc.
So, and I'm glad you mentioned Ashmini. Ashmini was really impressive through this year's domestic, but we know that she has a talent. I'm going to answer you from both sides. Me as a fan, first of all, success is whitewashing Sri Lanka. But I'll caveat that by saying, I listened to Haley yesterday. They posted, Haley, they asked about the upcoming series and so on. They posted on Cricket West Indies socials. And Haley mentioned the fact that we match up well against Sri Lanka. I want to remind the public, and this is where my second answer as an analyst and as a cricket commentator is that success needs to have that element of blooding that new talent, and I need to see somebody stand up other than Haley. Right? And I'm not even going to mention Chin, because I know Chinel is going to stand up. I'm not even going to mention Deandra. She's going to stand up. I'm not going to mention Steph, because Steph is going to stand up. Once she's on the 11, that is. Because the question around Steph at this point is always her fitness. Never her passion, never her effort. Never her influence. It's always about her fitness at this stage. But the second part, I need to see that blooding of young talent. And I'll say this, do not forget, Sri Lanka are the reigning Women's Asia Cup champions. Sri Lanka are not just Chamari Atapattu anymore. There's this young lady, her name is slipping my mind, who opens with Chamari, who played down here for TKR and injured her hand in the Brian Lara Academy and missed the finals against Barbados. All right. And her name will come back to, but it's her. It's the young lady who's wicket keeping. These girls for Sri Lanka, I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, they will take a bullet for Chamari Atapattu. And they idolize her and they all want to be Chamari. They want to earn her respect. And what is earning Chamari's respect? It's not just in the nets. It's going out onto that field and giving a 1000% effort. Even if they lose, Chamari must respect me as a player because I idolize her. She must see that I am taking her teachings and implementing it. I might fail because as an athlete, you fail. That's a given. So on the West Indies side, I need to see that from the young ones. I need to see that effort. I need to be able to say, okay, I have seen Hector come into this tournament and come into this bilateral series from a tournament and continue that good form. I need to see somebody like a Zeta James actually take the bull by the horns. I need to see somebody like Kiana. I need to see Kiana developing. I didn't see the development from Kiana. It needs to be more than just power hitting. And it was always something that I questioned. You know, Haley needs to understand. She needs to be the one to guide Kiana. Nobody else. You're going to spend most of the time with Kiana. That's your opening partner. You know, look at South Africa. Look at the influence Laura Wolvaert has on all the other openers that South Africa have used over the period of time. You know, Chamari, again, as an influence, as an opening batter, she's guiding. I need to see somebody more than just Karishma Ramharak as a spinner, when used, take wickets. And if you're not taking wickets, wickets is a byproduct. Let me see you bowl and go at 3 runs and over. As if you're bowling in a men's international test match. That's what I want to see. So as an analyst, yes, I honestly do not expect us to whitewash Sri Lanka, although we very well might, because West Indies, both men and women, we tend to play differently when we're home.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. We play differently when we're home. I don't know if it's the comfort. I don't know if it's having our families around. I don't know if it's the sea breeze for those grounds like St. Vincent, where the sea breeze comes across, and St. Kitts, where Warner Park is just a stone throw away from the port. I don't know if it's that, but we do play better at home. More than likely, it's going to end up on both sides 2-1 to West Indies women. Because I think Sri Lanka, because as Haley said, they match up so well against us. They're going to win at least one game. I think they are. They're going to win at least one game. But again, it needs to be more than Haley, Deandra, no Chin, and Steph.
Marnie, yeah.
So, but I really want to. I don't know what the 11 is going to be this morning, and they're going to get.
I'll just read it to you.
Yeah.
So the 11 is Hayley Matthews, Kiana Joseph. I presume this is the batting order. Hayley Matthews, Kiana Joseph, Shemaine Campbell, Stefani Taylor, Chanel Henry, Deandra Dottin, Janilla Glasgow, Aliyah Elaine, Shanisha Hector, who's opening the bowling, Afi Fletcher, and Karishma Ramhara. Yeah.
So and my thing is, again, just as we close off, again, if you're blooding Chanel Sau to take over from Campbell, today would have been the day.
I would have said so as well.
Today would have been the day.
The first game. You have to do it in the first game, because you can't be guaranteed that the last game is a dead rubber.
Correct.
So yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you look at that order that you just called out,
there's enough bat in there for you to not have to play Campbell.
You have the flexibility.
There's so many batters in there.
Correct.
So
you now stick Chanel at number 3. Put Chanel at number 3 behind Haley and Kiana. Reason being, at some point when wickets fall, she's either going to be batting with people who've been there, Haley or Kiana, although Kiana is still young, or coming behind her, Stefani, Deandra, Chanel.
Yeah.
So
that's called protecting a youngster.
There you go.
You put them in an environment where they're allowed to fail because they're protected.
And
instead of putting them in when they have to score to prove they belong there.
and this is why Zayda James is fading away. Zayda James' role in our women's team is supposed to be Akil Hussein's role in our women's team. That's what her role is supposed to be. I have seen Zayda James at under 19 level as a spinner. That's what her role is supposed to be.
No,
at least in T20.
But Gerard, Zayda James, thing is, we shouldn't even get into it because she was on my list as a talking point, but we're gonna have to leave it for the second episode.
Zayda and Aliyah, because you brought up Aliyah's name earlier. They are definitely two that we're going to talk about, because
we have to talk about them in detail.
Aliyah is one that we'll go in depth to, because some of Aliyah's problems are not her own.
Right.
There are influences over Aliyah that we can't talk about now.
All I will say to you about Zayda, and we'll leave it for the next episode, is when you have, because Zayda was the standout player in her age group, right?
Yes.
And rightly so, talented young lady.
Yes.
She's got into the senior setup. And if I'm Zayda James, I can't speak for Zayda James, but I've observed, right? If I'm Zayda James and I'm in her body right now, and I'm looking at my career over the last 18 months, I don't know what my role is, because I've played 1 million roles in the team. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing on the West Indies senior side. But Gerard, we will cover that properly.
And that role play is exactly why we're doing so well in the T20 World Cup presently. Mash, it's definitely been a pleasure. I look forward to others, because there's so much, and there's always things. There are always things going on in the world of cricket, not just West Indies cricket. and it's been a pleasure. It's definitely been a pleasure to actually do this rather than just twiddling the fingers and sending a message and tweeting and so on. It's definitely been a pleasure. I look forward to the next one. We will set up the time probably as this ODI and T20 series goes through with the girls, so that we can analyze some of the things. Because I think what you guys do is so vitally important. As you mentioned the other day on social media, Sportsmax is no longer around, Starbrook, and then the Newsday here in Trinidad, and there may be others. And then Cricket West Indies social media and their press room are not at the standard that they should be, right? What you guys do, again, I want to compliment you for it, and it's an honor to be on your podcast. There's a role to be played, and just a little note to Cricket West Indies. Yes, I am available when Australia come, Australia Women, to be part of that broadcast team. If anybody from Cricket West Indies are listening,
listen. I know they're listening. That's the one thing. That's the one thing.
Yeah. I'm available. I mean, listen to me. You put me in a chair next to Shakira Selman, I guarantee you it's going to be the best commentary you ever heard on the women's game.
Well,
anywhere in the world.
People, Gerard Pablo Basso is available.
and they all know me by face. Everyone by face knows me, from Miles to Mr. Holder. Everybody, they know me by face. LaDonna, everybody. But
listen, what I will say is this, though, people. Before I end the show, is that first things first, because obviously lots of you get in the comments after episodes, if you've enjoyed the episode, please let us know. I've got some plans which I'll be discussing with Gerard, not on air at the moment, but we've always wanted to have a regular segment on Caribbean Cricket podcast that covers women's cricket, and I think the thing for me is I'm just one person, and I know that I've had so many people message me in the past and say, "Mash, why haven't you covered this series and you ain't covered this? And where's your review of this match? And what about the?" Because if I hadn't done this with Gerard right now, I know for a fact people would have got onto me saying, "Where's your stuff about the women's series versus Sri Lanka?" Like, I'm just one person, people. So I'm going to be speaking.
Remember when we were setting up this, I told you I'm following every single game in the T20 World Cup. And
yes.
You tend not to follow anything that's not West Indies. You might be shocked if I tell you about Thailand women playing Zimbabwe women the other day, and New Zealand women now have a new captain in Amelia Kerr, and they have about 3 or 4 young ones coming in to make their debut against a series against Zimbabwe women, mind you. So I look at all. So there's a lot to talk about, and we need to. People might say, "Oh, why are you talking about Thailand women?" Listen to me. They will probably beat the West Indies women. You need to always have the overarching umbrella of international cricket in the back of your mind when you're talking about West Indies cricket, because we don't play ourselves. We play international teams, and they are progressing. Are we?
That is the perfect line to actually end it on. Listen, people, thank you so much to Gerard for coming on the show. He's definitely going to be back. This series isn't just one game. There's 6 games in this series. The women then play Australia. They then go to Ireland. Then there's the World Cup. Then they go back to Ireland again. So there's plenty of things to be discussing. And Gerard's not just here to talk about women's cricket, but it's been brilliant. And obviously you lot have seen me get on the head coach before, and it's good to chat to Shane, but it's important in women's cricket that you're hearing from loads of different voices that are truly following the cricket on the ground. Like I say, people, you need people who watch the cricket, not watch the scorecards. So I've been Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. It's been a pleasure to have Gerard on. Listen, Gerard, I'll give you the final word, then I'll close the show.
I don't know if I can come up with a final word other than that progressing line, to be quite honest. But no matter what is happening in Cricket West Indies administratively, I read an article online recently. One of the strengths of Indian cricket, and we love to bash the Indians, but one of their strengths is that they have a system and a structure that separates administration from on the field. And I think in the Caribbean, we seem to forget that players are human. and as administrators, there's no separation. So administration tends to get involved on the field, and we need to create that separation. But there is a lot, and I still want to give Cricket West Indies credit, no matter what. They have made strides over the last few years. We've probably regressed, but we hold faith, I think, is the best closing that I can give. We hold faith. I'm thoroughly going to enjoy looking at the girls here now. And I wish all the best to Haley and the troops, looking out for the young ones. And I look forward to the next one with you. And probably somewhere along the way, one of our, either the next one or the second one from now, we might have to forget about the girls because we might be talking about the guys as champions.
Yes,
I don't know.
Of course.
You know, but again, thank you so very much, Mash. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. We still rally. We still ready. We still. I like the jerseys in the background. You got to change it to the new ones, though. We're rallying, and we're West Indian, and we're the lifeblood of cricket and the bloodline of everything that is cricket.
Thank you so much, Gerard. Listen, people, that's been another episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We'll be back with some more content. Santoki should be back in the country sometime soon, so look out for some stuff on the weekend. Get your diaries ready. Women are playing right now. Well, sorry, we're recording as they've literally just started. There's another game on Sunday. The second ODI is on Sunday against Sri Lanka, so look in for that. And then we play Zimbabwe, the men's senior, on Monday. So that's your cricket over the next 3 days, people. By then, we will have dropped something else for you to watch. Thank you so much, Gerard. Thank you so much for being the audience, those of you who've watched this, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.